Please welcome Charles Hirschhorn, President of Otis College of Art and Design.
Thank you. As a college president, you never get walk-on music. It's very exciting. I feel like I'm batting for the Dodgers on opening day. Anyway, good morning and welcome. We are proud to host this year's launch of the Otis College Report on the Creative Economy here at SNAP with the support of the SNAP Foundation. I'd like to thank the team at SNAP and the SNAP Foundation for the generous support of Otis College and this important research you're going to learn more about today. Today's event is also being live streamed, so I welcome all the people who are watching us online on the Otis College YouTube channel, and a recording will be available there this afternoon. On your programs, you're going to see a QR code. If you want to submit questions to the panel at the end of the presentation, you can use the QR code on your program. Since 2007, the Otis College Report on the Creative Economy has been a critical tool understanding the impact of creative industries on the California economy. Over the past 18 years, it's been referenced by industry leaders, policymakers, educators, artists, and designers who are shaping creative sectors throughout our state. Just as the creative economy has evolved, so too has our reporting. It's transformed from a single print annual study into an ongoing research project powered by our Otis Creative Economy Dashboard. Introduced last year, the Creative Economy Dashboard is an interactive tool that provides accessible real-time data on trends impacting creative industries across our state. Users can tailor output and compare the performance of creative sectors by region. It's a powerful resource that I'm glad to say has been very well received and used a lot. Complementing our dashboard are topical reports released throughout the year that offer in-depth analysis of key themes, and trends facing creative industries. For example, today we'll share highlights from our recent studies on specialized design in Los Angeles with a focus on the toy design industry. The Creative Economy Dashboard is updated regularly with new data and functions, some of which we'll unveil today. We're grateful to many supporters who helped make all this research possible. Those include the California Community Foundation, City National Bank, the Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs, Gallagher, the Getty Foundation, Marsh, Moss Adams, the Music Man Foundation, the Ralph M. Parsons Foundation, SNAP Foundation, Sony Pictures Entertainment, and the Office of Los Angeles City Council member Tracy Park. I want to thank many of our partners who are here in person: Joan Weinstein, Alvaro Marquez, Joel Arquillos, and Daniel Tarico. Additionally, I'd like to thank supporters including the Mellon Foundation and the Parencio Foundation, who are members of the LA Arts Recovery Fund that provided critical support for Los Angeles-based art organizations impacted by the pandemic. I'm also happy to welcome some members of the Otis College Board of Trustees and Board of Governors. I'd now like to introduce Kelly Kagan Law, Board Chair, and Joel Arquillos, Executive Director of the SNAP Foundation, to share a few words. Welcome, Joel and Kelly.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. We wanted to start. I work at SNAP, Inc. I'm Kelly Kagan Law, she, her, hers. I'm also the chair of the board of the SNAP Foundation, and it is my pleasure and honor to welcome you here today. We are on indigenous land. It is the Tongva and Chumash people. We wanted to recognize our ancestors and elders and any indigenous people that are here today. SNAP, Inc. is a place that is about connecting people and creativity, and we are headquartered in Santa Monica, in Los Angeles, because of the diversity and the creativity. And in the beginning, when we had this choice of moving up, a lot of investors were like, Silicon Valley, come on. We decided to stay here. So because of the creativity and the opportunities for diversity. So we're very much part of Los Angeles. Hopefully you know about our co-founder, Evan Spiegel, and Bobby Murphy, and what they're doing with Los Angeles. And that is why we are here. So super excited and grateful to welcome you to our headquarters and here to talk about what we can do to bring in more young people and to support the creative economy. My honor and pleasure to introduce you to Joel.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Joel Arquillos. I'm the Executive Director of the SNAP Foundation. At the foundation, we focus on underrepresented youth. We really want to help youth from Los Angeles find their creativity, explore their creativity, be creative artists, and grow in this wonderful city and find work, which so many of you in this room are either making work or are providing nonprofit spaces to help our youth thrive. So we're really grateful to you. And we're here for that, to support that community. We're also so grateful to be connected with the Otis group to promote this beautiful and really informative and supportive new work that allows artists, allows policymakers, allows nonprofits, funders to sort of understand what's happening in Los Angeles, in California, in this creative space that we're all trying to improve. So just grateful to be partnered here and so grateful to be a part of this organization. And thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Kelly and Joel. And Kelly, if you talk to her, she runs the council program at SNAP and led a lovely little council program backstage. So thank you for that. And now I'd like to we're happy to have the mayor of Santa Monica with us today. So I'd like to introduce the mayor of Santa Monica, Lana Negrete.
Good morning, everyone. This is amazing to be in this space because I saw it when it was just down to its studs. So it's really cool to feel the vibrant energy of all these creatives filling up this space. Welcome to the city of Santa Monica. I want to say how pleased we are that Otis and SNAP are in partnership here in our great city for this event. An essential element for making the case for support is data, and we in public agencies around the region are grateful for Otis College Art and Design's long-standing commitment to charting the course of the creative economy. Thank you to SNAP for hosting today. We appreciate your investment in Santa Monica as one of our largest tenants and recognize your leadership as a founding employer of Silicon Beach. SNAP is a beacon for local and international business opportunities and creative growth in our community. I especially want to welcome you here to the Santa Monica Airport, where we recently had the pleasure of hosting Freeze, a great example of the ripple effects of supporting the arts as a way to sustain our city as a great place to live, to play, and to do business. We are committed to including the airport as a site for arts and culture as it continues to evolve. I know firsthand, as an arts business owner and nonprofit arts founder, the importance of a vibrant creative ecosystem that connects creatives, service providers, vendors, communities, and I just want to say, as a mother and what I do with my nonprofit, youth, oftentimes arts is the only thing that gets at least my kids to wake up in the morning and go to school, and it's definitely a way for them to connect, and then I truly believe that it's mental health. So we need arts in our community. We need it for our youth because it's their access to mental health. As the mayor of Santa Monica, this report is so important to those of us in public service because it helps us tell a story of not just what we know intuitively to be true about the relevance and importance of the arts and creative industries to our communities, but it also presents through the data the sheer scale of the creative economy in our region. And it helps us to better understand and anticipate needs for future job development, aiding in resilience and recovery. Here in Santa Monica, we have a rich history of arts support and programming, and we're extremely proud of that. Every year, we work together to strengthen our cultural ecosystem through grants and opportunities for nonprofits and artists and support for hybrid and nonprofit cultural models. Our Art of Recovery program pairs artists with local businesses and community organizations to enhance and reflect our neighborhoods and bring us together. And for over 40 years, we've had a Percent for Art program that enlivens our civic spaces with destination artworks and opportunities for contemplation and inquiry. And the timing of today is absolutely amazing because we are coming up on April, which is Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month across California. Locally, we celebrate the deep roots of the arts in our community and advocate for its support. Throughout the month, there are events and advocacy opportunities to engage art lovers and raise awareness of the impact of the arts within communities across the state of California. So we hope you will join us this April and all year long here in Santa Monica celebrating the arts. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mayor Negrete. Fun fact, the mayor went on a run this morning at 5 a.m. with local firefighters. So if you want to run tomorrow morning, you can run with her. In just a moment, our partners at Westwood Economics and Planning Associates will share their findings of their research. But first, I want to underscore the importance of the creative economy, which directly employs over 760,000 people in our state, while indirectly supporting hundreds of thousands of additional jobs in other sectors of our economy. California's creative economy is resilient. It continues to be an important source of high-paying jobs and a pathway to opportunity for many people despite unprecedented challenges, as we all know, including recent wildfires, strikes, and shifting employment within entertainment and new media. Increasingly, creative work requires higher education and specialized skills, reinforcing the values of the opportunity institutions like Otis College provide. Otis College has been preparing emerging artists and designers for success across creative fields since 1918. We understand and engage with the evolving needs of the creative sector, and we educate a new generation to shape our shared future. We will now share a short video highlighting Otis College's work and its impact, with an open invitation for all of you to partner with us as we prepare future artists and designers to transform our creative economy. Following the video, we'll welcome Patrick Adler and Tanner Osmond, founding partners of Westwood Economics and Planning Associates, to share their findings from their latest research. Thank you to Westwood Economics team for their continued collaboration and for making this important data available to a wide audience. So you can play the video, please.
At Otis, we celebrate students' unique creative voices and prepare them for success. For over a century, we have empowered a diverse community of students to build rewarding careers and shape the world. Taught by working artists, designers, and industry professionals, Otis students are prepared to succeed and to have an impact across creative fields. An Otis education balances the mastery of fundamental skills and new technology, allowing artists and designers to excel in an evolving creative economy where they engage locally and think globally. Located in Los Angeles, Otis offers students unparalleled access to art and design, unique educational experiences, and industry. With our support, they build professional networks, gain real-world experience, and transform what they love into successful careers. At Otis, we empower artists and designers to thrive. Our alumni are influencing society and shaping the world. Help us build a creative future and empower the next generation of artists and designers.
Please welcome Patrick Adler and Tanner Osmond, founding partners of Westwood Economics and Planning Associates.
Good morning. My name is Tanner. This is Patrick. And before we begin, we'd just like to thank Snap for hosting and for their continued support. We'd like to thank Otis for being great partners and thank everybody for being here today. I should probably use this. Charles told you at the event last year, we told you also, but we don't think that we can tell you enough. Otis College no longer produces a 200-page report on the creative economy. Instead, we've replaced that annual report with a digital dashboard, which includes all the information that was in the old reports, plus a lot more data. And the dashboard has two primary advantages over the annual report. The first thing is that the dashboard updates every quarter as new data released by the government. So that means that Otis can bring you the most up-to-date information about the creative economy at all times. The dashboard is also interactive, so it enables you to go in there and compare different sectors of the creative economy and compare different counties' performance on the creative economy also. The dashboard is constantly evolving, and we're adding 2 primary new features this year. The first update is going to be a better way for you to track the racial profile of workers within the creative economy. There's more granularity with respect to tracing racial profile than there was previously. We're also adding a feature that is going to enable you to track independent contractors within the creative economy also. In addition to the dashboard, Otis is now producing a brief creative economy update, and I'll be presenting the major findings from that update shortly. Otis is also producing more frequent, shorter, in-depth analysis about different aspects of the creative economy, and today we're also releasing a report about the toy industry, and Patrick is going to be presenting the key findings from the toy industry report shortly after I talk. So we're here today because the creative economy is an incredibly important sector within California. Directly, the creative economy employs 5% of the state's workforce, but if you factor in that creative firms and creative workers are spending money in other sectors of the economy, we estimate that the creative economy accounts for around about 10% of all jobs in California. Now, in LA, that number is a little bit higher. In LA, the creative economy accounts for around about 13 or 14% of total jobs. In addition to being a great source of jobs, the creative economy is a source of high-paying jobs also. So the average creative economy worker earns around about $191,000 a year, which is around about twice the average pay across the rest of the economy. Now, the table that you're looking at here shows you the 9 sectors that comprise the creative economy, and I think most of these categories are pretty self-explanatory. I just would flag a couple of them. So you can see that the new media industry is the industry which employs the highest number of creative economy workers within the state. New media includes social media, internet, and software companies. And another industry that I should probably explain to you is the managers, independent artists, and performers, which is a sector of the economy which includes the creative economy. Now, the chart also shows you how creative economy jobs are divided across each of these 9 sectors that make up the creative economy. And because they're a big part of the story today, I just flagged that new media and film, TV, and sound make up 1 out of every 2 jobs within California's creative economy. Now, with respect to our creative economy update this year, we're really focusing in on 5 primary findings. I'm going to read them to you quickly and then just give you a little bit more flavor about what is going on with respect to each of these findings. So our first key finding from the Creative Economy Report this year is that over the past year, employment in California's creative economy contracted by 0.9%. But the good news is that California remains the national leader with respect to the creative economy. Second key finding from the report is that the film and TV industry hasn't recovered from the employment losses which occurred in 2022 and 2023, and we don't expect a full recovery in that employment to occur anytime soon. Third, the fine arts sector continues to be one of the fastest growing segments within California's creative economy, and not only that, the fine arts segment California is one of the national leaders with respect to fine arts education. Fourth, creative economy workers continue to become better educated and better paid. And then our 5th finding from today is just looking at what is happening within California. Across all California regions over the past year, LA's creative economy added the most jobs, and in San Francisco's economy lost the most of creative economy jobs over the last year. And like I said, I'm going to turn to each one of these findings in detail now. As I mentioned, creative economy shed around about 0.9% jobs in California over the past year, which equates to around about 6,700 positions. To place that figure in context, the creative economy nationally contracted by 0.8% over the last year. So this was not something, or these job losses were not something that was specific to California. It was more a read on the broader malaise in the creative economy, which has occurred over the last 2 or 3 years. The top chart shows you how the different sectors within the creative economy added and lost jobs, how they performed over the past year. I just want to flag that the film, TV, and sound sector added more jobs than any other creative economy sector over the past year, while the new media sector, which again includes social media, internet, and software companies, saw the largest job losses. But I'm going to come back and speak to those two sectors in greater detail in the next couple of slides. Despite some of the negative headlines that might have surrounded the creative economy over the past few years, it is important to remember that California does remain the national leader. So if you were to take a look at the bottom table here, it shows California's contribution to national jobs, to all jobs in the US across each of these creative economy sectors. So across the entire creative economy, California accounts for 18% of all jobs within the nation. So around about 1 in 5 creative economy jobs are found here in California. But within some sectors, California is particularly dominant. So if we look at managers, independent artists, and performers, which again includes the creative economy, California accounts for 37% of those jobs nationally. If we were to look at film, TV, and sound, again, despite some of the negative headlines, California still accounts for 35% of all of the jobs within these sectors of the economy. Now, I mentioned on the previous slide that the film, TV, and sound sector added the most jobs of any creative economy sector over the past year. But that statistic is a little bit leading because that data point is tracking the situation 1 year on from the strikes in 2023. So compared to the depths of the strikes in 2023, there's been a bounce back in employment within California's film and TV sector. The slight problem, the problem is that only 26% of those jobs that were lost in film and TV throughout 2022 and 2023 have been recovered, and employment in film, TV, and sound is 25% lower today than it was in 2022. Now, we believe that, unfortunately, those jobs are not going to be especially quick to recover because of the phenomenon of peak TV. So leading up to 2021, that 10-year period leading up to 2021, there was a 100% increase, or the number of the scripted TV shows produced doubled over that time period as streaming platforms sought to build out their catalogs, as many of them were coming online around the time in and before the pandemic. In 2022, a number of these production budgets had been cut, which means that today, or in 2024, there was 42% less production occurring than was the case in 2022. Now, unfortunately, those production budgets are not coming back as quickly as we might like them to be, which is why we believe that employment is going to be slow to recover to its 2022 levels. If there's a silver lining in this story for California, it can be described by the chart that you're looking at here. So I'll just tell you what each of these lines represent. The blue line represents film and TV employment, and the pink line represent the amount of production that is occurring. If you were to take a look at the line during the pandemic, you can see the production came to a halt, but not everybody within the industry was laid off. And the reason for this is that California, while production is important to the state, California is specialized in other non-production aspects of the industry. So even if production dwindles, there's still a role within the film and TV industry for management and administration of a lot of the workforce, and a lot of those leadership functions are located here in California. And it's for that reason that while the production cuts are clearly not positive, but California is positioned to better handle those cuts than many other places. When we were standing here last year, we flagged that in 2023, the fine arts sector was the only sector of the economy which had added jobs in that year. In fact, the fine arts sector within the creative economy is the only creative sector which has added jobs in each of the last 2 years. And if we were to look over the last 5 years, only new media company have added more jobs than fine arts within California. Now, We took a deeper dive into what was going on within the industry, and if you look at this top table here, it is showing you the different segments that make up the fine arts segment. And what you will see is that most of the employment gains in fine arts over the last 5 years or so has come within fine arts schools. Now, we always knew that California has a number of prominent and great fine arts schools, but we didn't realize quite how dominant it was. So within the fine arts sector, California awards 22% of all fine arts degrees in a given year. And this bottom table here tracks the top 15 universities which awarded the most fine arts degrees in 2023, which is the most recent year for which we have data available. 7 of those top 15 schools which are producing fine arts degrees are located here in California. And fine arts education is important because around about 10% of the creative economy workforce hold a fine arts degree. Now, with respect to the workers within the economy, a trend that we've been observing over a number of years now is that California's creative economy workers are becoming more educated and better paid over time. So for the entire creative workforce, the number of people holding a bachelor's degree increased from 55% in 2013 to 64% in 2023. So 64% of the workers in the creative economy today hold a bachelor's degree. That compares to 42% in the rest of the economy. So California's creative economy workers are much more educated than the rest of the economy, but they're also more educated than creative economy workers across the entirety of the US. And one of the reasons for this is that California continues to be the intellectual leader and executive leader with respect to the creative economy. So if you were to look at the bottom table, which is listed here, you'll see what the bottom table shows you is how the creative economy jobs are divided across different occupations within the economy. There's a lot going on in that table, but I just want to flag a couple of things to your attention. If we look at computer and mathematical occupations, they accounted for 5% of all creative economy workers in 2013. Today, they account for 9%. If we look at managers, they accounted for 14% of the creative economy workforce in 2013. Today, they account for 16%. By contrast, if we were to look at workers in office administration and production jobs, their share of the creative economy workforce has shrunk over time. So what we see is a creative economy in which California is not only the intellectual leader, but it is becoming a more technically centered creative economy than exists in the rest of the US. Finally, and this is a perfect slide for this audience, when we look within California, we see that over the past year, Los Angeles added more creative economy jobs than any other part of the state, whereas San Francisco shed more jobs than any other part of the state. And the reason for this is that LA, or the film and TV industry, is focused here in LA, and we already saw that over the past year, that particular sector added a lot of jobs. By contrast, you remember in an earlier slide I showed you that new media jobs was, the new media sector was the worst performing industry over the past year, and most of those jobs are located in San Francisco. And if new media was having struggles, that would be a problem for the broader creative economy because it employs more creative economy workers than any other part of the state's creative economy. But we wouldn't want to overinterpret a short-term blip. The new media sector has been the fastest growing creative economy sector in California over the past 5 years. And if you look at the major companies within the space, these are companies which are continuing to grow revenue, continuing to grow profits, and we think that overall the new media sector is going to be a net positive, of course, for the creative economy in California. And we're not just saying that because we're at Snap today. So just to wrap up, California continues to be the national leader with respect to the creative economy. The highest growing segments of the creative economy are located in California. The only thing that we would flag is as the industry becomes employs more and more educated workers. We think there's a workforce development challenge with respect to people who don't hold a college degree, and we think that there's an opportunity to train people without college degrees so they can develop the skills that they need to succeed in the modern creative economy. And with that, I'll pass you over to Patrick.
So at Westwood, we're very fair, so we rationed speaking time today by height. So it's going to be a bit shorter from me. It's my distinct pleasure to speak about our detailed research. And what we really think of the report, the design report we're releasing today as, is the second in a multi-year series, which we call LA Advantage. And the real thrust of that is, given the fact that traditional film and television production is less centered on Los Angeles than ever, what are the new sources of competitive advantage for Los Angeles? What are the areas, as the economy is changing, of LA's leadership? And what we did last year in the first part of this series was try to expand what entertainment means away from traditional shooting, film and television production, to new media, independent artists, the creator economy, and all these new sectors of entertainment activity that are more centered, just as centered maybe on Los Angeles as Hollywood was in its original heyday. And the topic today is design. And starting with the key data point about design, there are two major design centers in the United States, and Los Angeles is one of them. The other is New York, and you might say, oh, well, these two cities are the largest cities. Well, Los Angeles and New York they don't just have a critical mass of designers, more than 50,000 designers each, but they have specialization in design. By specialization, what I mean is that design is more important to their relative economies than it is to the nation as a whole. So it's 40% more important in LA and 30% more important in New York. And if you didn't notice, 40% is higher than 30%. LA is more of a design city than New York, which might be surprising to a lot of us in the audience. It was certainly surprising to us. So before we get into some of the why here, I just want to point out that design is this really fascinating Swiss Army knife sector where designers are embedded in every kind of organization in the economy, but then design is also a final service that households and firms buy from. So as an industry and as an input into industries, design is very important. Our strategy to understand why design is so centered on Los Angeles is a case study strategy. So what you do is you try to get deep insights by narrowing your focus. And what we did was we took an industry that we knew was centered here, and then we talked to everyone we could, and we got as much information as we could. We analyzed a lot of new data to figure out why. And the focus really here is why. Like, why Los Angeles? What does this like big technology of the city of Los Angeles do for a design-focused industry like toys? And toys, it's a employment terms very small industry, but in value terms, it's significant. A significant amount of household income, as these slides demonstrate, are devoted to toys. So we're really trying to zero in on why. And in probably the only feat of strength you'll see all morning, I'm going to try to cram a 20-page report into 3 slides. So we start out with the first theme, which is the centeredness of the toy industry in LA. And basically, the United States doesn't mass produce toys anymore. But every value-creating function that exists in the United States, and the United States is a major center of the toy industry, exists in Los Angeles. Los Angeles has almost twice the number of toy employees as the second leading city, which is New York. And Los Angeles is active in every value-generating area. It's a major headquarters. It's, of course, got a major design labor force. It's got these small and medium-sized firms, which occupy like important niches in the toy industry. It does logistics and distribution. That's not just physically moving toys, but doing this like chess troubleshooting of figuring out the rapidly changing, and believe me, since January, these are rapidly changing supply chains and distribution networks in the toy industry. And then it's also innovation. The thing that we were maybe most surprised to find out about Los Angeles Toys is that it doesn't just have more headquarters than anywhere else, but it's got more online toy creators. We scraped Kickstarter toy data, and it turns out there's more toy creators here, they're backed by more people, and they raise more money here than anywhere else, not just in the United States, but in the world. And that brings me to the why of this. Why does Los Angeles do so well? And there's kind of two types of explanations here. The first is like entirely accurate, but not as interesting. And the second's more speculative, but maybe instructive about the creative economy generally. So the first answer is we've got these anchors. We've got headquarters. We've got the likes of the Otis College of Design, who are, of course, our benefactors. And these create what one of our respondents called a force field. So if you are making your way in the toy industry, you're moving to one single place. Because of these anchors, it might as well be Los Angeles. It'll be the place you're most likely going to have a job opportunity. And if you're a small toy firm and you want to play with bigger firms, why not where Mattel and Jakks Pacific are headquartered? Okay, so that's the boring explanation. The really fundamentals-driven explanation focuses on three facets, the first of which is the presence here of content creation. What you see in the evolution of the toy industry is LA began to supplant New York as a toy city precisely as licensed toys became a bigger and bigger part of the toy industry. So licensed toys are huge, not just action figures, but across the entire range. And Los Angeles is where a lot of this content is created. And toy makers need to be here near where the content is created so that they could do things like get the licenses to begin with, and doing that as a very trust-based, relationship-driven enterprise where it helps to know people and interact with them regularly. And then more importantly, you need to be on-site co-developing the toys with the licensee and co-developing the IP and the toys together. So oftentimes what happens is stories are being written, movies are being shot precisely at the same time as toys are being made. This kind of intricate dance and coordination happens in the same place in Los Angeles, and it kind of has to happen in the same place. So Los Angeles has won as, basically the content part of toys has become more important. We also talk about the charismatic atmosphere in Los Angeles, and there's two basic cuts here. It's a charismatic atmosphere for toy consumers. Toy consumers, when they're consuming Barbie or Hot Wheels, they are consuming a piece of LA as an idea. LA as a design concept. LA is also a place where it's easy to develop for a global market because LA itself is so diverse. The other part of that is this is a welcoming, tolerant place where creators and talented people want to be, including the likes of the people who started some of the leading toy firms here. And then finally, Los Angeles is just physically in a great location. It's near this massive port complex, which is great for the distribution part of the toy industry. And it's also on the West Coast, which is much more favorable location for coordinating with the manufacturing centers in Asia. Okay, so this finally brings us to the so what of this, because we didn't just want to study toys, we wanted to figure out why design, or what toys could tell us about design generally, and maybe the future of the creative economy. And we're pretty satisfied, I've got to say, with where we ended up in this project, because as it turns out, not just toys, but this wider world of industrial output where this merchandising world where stories and ideas and celebrity become products, where they take a material form, There's no better place on earth to do this than Los Angeles. And the reason for this is because Los Angeles has a lot of designers, it has a great design labor force, but it also has the underlying IP, and it has an environment. It has this star-making machinery or toy-making machinery where these things can kind of interact. And it's not just about toys. It's about your experience in Target, in the home goods part of Target, where basically everything you see is a licensed product. It's about the musical group, which can't make any money selling music anymore and makes most of its money selling T-shirts. It's about the celebrity influencer with their own vodka brand, which chemically is identical to the vodka of the competing celebrity influencer's brand, but is only really differentiated by the compelling visual and physical identity of the products. All of this merchandising is a massively important and growing part of the creative economy. It's an extended part of the greater entertainment industry, and it can only really happen here like it happens here. And we believe that this is a massive growth center for the entertainment industry generally. And there's kind of this bright, shining object that we talked about last year that is digital media, that is what's happening on the internet. But we can't really lose sight of the slightly older segment of entertainment, which is merchandising, which is turning content into physical representations of that content. And no better place like Los Angeles to do this. And with that, I think it's a great time to speak to our panel and hear the field level perspective on this. So thanks for your attention.
All right, thank you, Patrick and Tanner. They were great. I'm now going to describe all of you as charismatic atmosphere, because I think you represent that to me. A few shout outs in the audience. Leo Lawson, trustee, is in the audience. Dawn Bailey, Otis College trustee, also in the audience. And Fred Fisher on our Board of Governors. And my wife, who celebrated her birthday this week, Cynthia. So I told her I'd take her out for breakfast today, so I think I'm a good husband. Anyway, as a reminder, all the creative economy data that Tanner and Patrick just went through, and all our most recent research is available on our website. So now I want to move on and introduce the panel that will now discuss Los Angeles' position as a design leader. As I mentioned, following the panel, there will be Q&A, and if you want to submit a question, just scan the QR code that's on the programming. Moderating today's conversation is Frances Anderton. Frances covers Los Angeles design and architecture in print, broadcast media, and public events. She's the author of the book Common Ground, Multifamily Housing in Los Angeles. She previously hosted DNA, Design and Architecture, for KCRW, and currently writes a regular newsletter for KCRW's design enthusiasts. Our panelists include Barbara Bestor, founder and principal of Bestor Architecture. Barbara's award-winning studio is recognized for its experimental architecture that engages the city throughout design, art, and urbanism. I think we're actually in one of her projects today. Chris Down, the Executive Vice President and Chief Design Officer at Mattel. Chris has designed board games for Parker Brothers, award-winning video games for Hasbro Interactive, co-founded Atari's innovation practice, Atari Labs, and now leads global design and innovation for Mattel. Mattel is also very instrumental in helping Otis College create our toy design program, which they created almost 30 years ago. One of the only 4-year toy design undergraduate programs in the country. Dana Flowers, the senior creative lead of movies and series at Amazon MGM Studios. Dana has previously served as an executive vice president at Sony Pictures and was inducted into the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences in 2020. She recently worked with us and Netflix as an instructor for our Access program, a career pipeline that provides opportunity for emerging creatives. And finally, Jackson George, the Executive Vice President and Head of Brand Creative for Disney Plus, and Co-Head of Creative Marketing for Walt Disney Studios. As Co-Head of Creative Marketing, Jackson is responsible for all Pixar, Lucasfilm, and Walt Disney Animation Studios and live-action programs across theatrical and streaming, as well as creative strategy and management of the Avatar franchise. He is also head of creative marketing for Disney Plus, where he leads brand and creative advertising strategy. So please welcome our panel.
Thank you so much, Charles, for the welcome. Thank you to Otis for putting on this event, to Snap for hosting us. It's very exciting to get to see inside. And not to use tired puns, I should really applaud Otis for the snappiness of this event that we're part of. The information's being delivered fast and hard, and it's really fascinating information, and we're going to try and unpack some of it right now. We've heard some great terms in the course of the presentations. I think one of the ones that we've all alighted upon is that we in Los Angeles, with our LA advantage, are immersed in a charismatic atmosphere. I am pleased to be joined by 4 charismatic creatives who are going to, as I say, help us make sense of what we've heard. And I would say that in terms of making sense, what has been summarized this morning has been sort of a largely quite positive picture, undercut with some negatives. You know, we heard about the difference between the North and the South in terms of the job losses in new media up North, and we also heard about the challenges, the continuing challenges to Hollywood here in the South. One of the ups, evidently, is that people, in the face of whatever might be going on out there, they seem to want to play. It seems as if toys are doing extremely well. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that Otis has a big toy design department, but let's start with toys, and that means I'm going to turn to Chris Down, EVP, Chief Design Officer with Mattel. Chris, you're right in the heart of this toy industry that we hear is really booming. Tell us about that, and in terms of what we heard about the kind of synergies, I guess, that our experts from Westwood Economics were explaining. Did that all resonate with you? Are there other pieces to the toy story?
I think that won't be the last pun of the day.
I know, there's too many pun opportunities in this conversation. I'm sorry.
There's some good ones. No, I was picking up what Patrick was putting down. I think that it was an accurate reflection of what we've observed within the toy industry. I think that there are a couple of things. I mean, one, inherent in your question around kind of why the health of the toy industry, something that those of us that have maybe played in later age, kind of any of us in this room are probably can qualify as 13 plus. The fastest growing segment of consumer is strangely, because toys are for kids, right? Is actually the adult audience, the 13 plus audience, and that's been the case, I think, accelerated by COVID, and now as a single demographic within the toy industry, adult consumers are actually representing the largest segment of consumer toys. That's part of why I think the toy industry is healthy, because frankly, the consumer base and the white space that it represents has just grown. The second piece I know is the subject of why we're all here is why LA, and I think that it's a number of factors, and Patrick stepped through many of them, so I won't rehash them. But the flywheel is real, and the gravity when you have both the places like Mattel and others in the toy industry, Jakks Pacific, MGA, you go down the Zuru, you go down the list of larger and mid-sized and smaller toy companies. And then you add on the kind of amplification of having content providers, whether they're video game producers or movie studios like Universal and Disney. it's the perfect storm to really attract people that want to work in creative fields. We have creators that are from the auto industry, from the film industry, from the toy industry, from industrial design, from graphics, from all orders of art, design, and creativity in toys. And I think that's another attraction, the versatility of the types of creatives that are responsible for making toys that actually attract them to Mattel, but to the toy industry.
Okay, now, but we heard also from our experts, I think it was Patrick was talking just about these, I guess, cross-disciplinary engagements, and one of which, of course, is he talked about the celebrity and this charismatic, atmospheric place that we live in with this sort of star-studded celebrity-conscious culture, and he seemed to suggest that there's an interrelationship between the toy industry and Hollywood, and yet, I'm just trying to make sense of it all, we also are hearing about the challenges to Hollywood. So with that, I think I should turn to you, Dana, because in a way, it's you're sort of, you two, actually, Dana and Jackson, both of you so involved with the other pieces of entertainment on our stage here. So Dana, please tell us from your vantage point in the industry. You are currently Senior Creative Lead, Movies and Series at Amazon MGM Studios. What's your takeaway from the findings today?
You know, it's definitely, the landscape has been changing. You know, it's definitely different. We're looking at a new normal and trying to figure out where it is. I mean, for me, the way that I see it is that, you know, the audience's appetites have been really changing. And, you know, while the production, there has been an increase in production, it hasn't quite got back to where we used to be. And so the budgets have been shifting and they're not spending as much. There's been a little bit of a fear of going after things that aren't being, like, you know, what they really want to do is they're just putting out the type of product. So it's like, they're putting out the same type of movies, and such as they're either doing a reboot or they're not really investing in the old, like, brand new movies, or you have a new script idea. It's like it's the same thing. So even in streaming, the budgets are smaller, things are a little bit more, it's just a little bit more hand-holdy about things. And so I think that we need to kind of expand that thinking and go back to the new and create a new normal that we haven't seen lately. So I think it's a little bit scary, but I think that there's a new dawn coming, but I think it's going to take time.
When you said people's tastes are changing, in what way?
I just think there's a lot of content out there, so the appetites are shifting, and you can't really predict what people's appetites are anymore. You don't know what's a blockbuster. You don't know what's a hit. So we don't know anymore, and that's kind of frightening to understand how to put money behind something when you don't know what people's appetites are.
Right. And now in terms of a report like the one we've heard today, do you think there are sort of outcomes that might come from it? You know, we have people here, we have elected officials, you know, we have people in sort of policy-making positions. Is there anything you would want to see policymakers be doing in terms of perhaps improving on this new normal?
I think that we need to, I mean, I know, as you know, productions are moving out of the state, and, you know, we're seeing that not a lot of people are shooting out here. Everything is moving out of state. You see a lot of things are doing, you know, Atlanta, London, everything's moving out of California. So whatever we can do to have more tax incentives and more things to bring it back to California, because this is where diversity is. This is where it's tradition meets innovation here in LA, in Hollywood. And so I think we need to bring that back and kind of foster what we have here. So anything we can do to kind of bring that community back and foster that community would be wonderful.
Got it, got it. And I will say, as a general point about the report, which I do find fascinating, I am curious as to what the sort of measures might be that it might sort of make the case for, open the door to. So Jackson, over to you. You, in a way, I guess, your company, you are head of brand creative, Disney Plus, co-head of creative marketing, Walt Disney Studios. You're with the big kahuna, if I may say, in that place that brings together play and toys and storytelling and film on an absolutely, ginormous level. What's your take on what you've heard? You're with a company that's built the charismatic atmosphere that we live in.
I love that phrase so much.
So do I.
Yeah. I think just one thing to say, I think entertainment is a very cyclical thing, and we've seen all of these kind of patterns have been repeated through history. So I do believe that we are in a very tight period right now, but I do believe always that a boom's right around the corner, and I think you kind of have to have that hope and optimism to be able to kind of function in this space. There's certainly a tremendous amount of headwinds right now, and I think one of the things that entertainment has had some issues with is just the market valuation of it as a tech companies versus entertainment. The economics are changing, budgets are tighter, but that's always a space where innovation kind of has to take the first step. I think that just to echo what Chris said about the flywheel, the physical location of all of these kind of creative products in one place, extraordinarily important. I think during COVID and the real kind of acceleration of distance in work, I think we saw some real impacts on what the creative products ended up being. We put the tools, I think, a little bit first in certain places where the collaboration and the opportunity to kind of spend time together, that's where real creative juices kind of flow. And it impacts every single industry. I mean, there's no strict entertainment, new media. The divisions feel very blurry now, and I think looking at the data, I couldn't help but see the bigger picture of all of these things and how they work together. So I think, being in the same physical space kind of means everything, and California is a place that everybody wants to come for that. Looking at the report and the acceleration of fine arts in this area, and the segment, the strength of that segment kind of fuels the bigger idea that this is where people want to be, to make creative products, to have creative conversations at all kind of levels.
Yes, and I was going to say one of the other terms that I love that came out of this report, if anyone didn't know, that the capital of toy making, where everything comes together, is El Segundo, aka Plush Bay.
I'd like to say it's probably more Barbie Beach than Plush Bay.
Oh, Barbie Beach. Even better, even better.
Yeah, I like that.
But with that, let's talk a little bit, however, about, you did bring up the headwinds. You did. What did you mean by the headwinds?
Oh, I just think that that all of the experiences of the past several years, the fires included, I think that was an incredibly unfortunate thing, and just to think about it in terms of the creative economy and space, rental prices. There's a million things. There's a million things that are impacted by that, and our ability to adapt to that is really critical. I think that between, yes, they all seem fairly obvious to everyone, I think, at this point, but the pandemic and the fire have really impacted, I think, the way that the creative economy kind of functions.
Pandemic, fires, and prior to those two, there was already great challenges in this state around housing costs. So with that, I'd actually like to go to Barbara, who, as was briefly mentioned by Charles, is actually a designer of several spaces for Snap and many other wonderful environments that she has designed. Barbara, founder principal, Bestor Architecture, but also really a voice for the architecture community. So really sort of it takes the ideating that the architecture community does about, I guess, the bigger challenges that we face, the bigger land use problems that we need to deal with. That's all in Barbara's purview as well. So, and I know, Barbara, you want to sort of bring that to the table today. So tell me, if we're talking about, on the one hand, all the good news, the LA advantage, but also the headwinds of the type we've just described, what's your take on this, the sort of the creative economy and how it can thrive in our region?
Well, I would say that LA, since the post-war era, has been sort of the leader in design for America, whether it's architecture or other topics, obviously film, but that, we've got the Pritzker winners, we've got we're constantly building really interesting new ways of collecting people together. our headwinds in architecture per se have been, say, the workplace issues from COVID, the homelessness issue has been a huge topic in our city and state for so long. The fires have, 2 bombs went off, one in LA County, one in unincorporated LA County, and we face the obstacles, in our case. Some of it's about outdated zoning, some of it's politics, some of it's funding. Are they going to be funding affordable housing? That's a big question right now. I think that in a sort of creative content way, I think when we look at the future, though, there's around in the issue of sustainability, which might be geographic as well as material. There are a lot of opportunities that are almost simpler than one would think. They aren't really about AI. They're more about, can we build out of wood, which is sustainable, easy to get, low carbon footprint? Can we create medium density where we don't give up the character of a city that is sort of based on these villages of single family mixed with some pockets of denser urbanism? But can we densify that without giving up sort of the character that I think attracts people physically and emotionally to their neighborhoods? I think, you think about how big LA County is, including El Segundo and Santa Monica within it, but we have quite a lot of room to grow and change. And obviously, those of you who've been around for 10 or 20 years, the centers of where people want to live and what's going on keep changing quite a lot. They kind of move around. There's room to expand. I think there's a lot of really hopeful possibilities. So I think, I'm excited about it. To me, looking at the numbers, I was like, okay, architecture dropped. It probably is a lot around the workplace issue because we do have a lot of the firms here that design headquarters. We design headquarters, but we're like a little firm in that world. But as people left the office, that entire sector disappeared. It's now coming back. I'm sure you've read, the industries are requiring people to come back to work. So that may change again. But architects are a little bit like we're producing new ways of, say, having authentic experience or creating community, but we also work for the forces that are in my panel. We're the guns for hire sometimes about reimagining those things. So we're very sensitive to this creative economy and its shifts. Our clients are generally coming from the creative economy, but on the larger size.
Well, it's interesting, that very point, because the kinds of clients that you've just mentioned that can perhaps commission you to design them a house or be the boss that commissions the nice new office place, they are also in that higher managerial level that our Westwood Economics, Patrick and Tanner were talking about. And it was very interesting, those numbers. Yes, those higher managerial jobs, very highly paid, lots of them, really boosting the economy in California. The lower paid jobs that used to be absolutely part of the ecosystem of design, exiting the state. We presume, or rather, one might ask, what are those factors? And probably a factor might be the cost of housing. You just referenced zoning. I'd love to debate the zoning issue, but we can't do it right here. But whatever it is, we have an underproduction of housing, which has had an extreme knock-on effect on all sorts of things, including, it seems, this lower band of workers within even the creative economy. Does any of you want to sort of pick up on that and the fact that we've got this kind of, I guess, stratification happening about the kinds of creative economy jobs that we have in the States? I mean, it sounds like in toys, you've got everybody. Or not, because your toys are being made overseas. The playing's being done everywhere. The manufacturing's happening overseas. The creativity, the designing of the toys and the merchandising and the branding is happening here. Is that what's going on?
It is. I mean, it's not, it's not perfectly black and white for a global multi-site company like Mattel. I will say the great gravity is here in Los Angeles, in El Segundo. Where we do have design and engineering and marketing and kind of the nucleus of what we do, but we also reside in Western New York with our Fisher-Price division and in Montreal, Canada, with our Mega Blocks and Mattel Brick Shop division. And then, of course, we have Asia operations and so on. What I will say is that the cost of living is it's real. It's a real issue. As we look at kind of the transient nature of people moving within divisions, within functions inside of the company, that the value, both from a lifestyle point of view, as well as from a kind of creative lightning rod point of view, kind of the topic that we're talking about today, the gravity is significant. So people are willing to give up other things that feel different on the lifestyle side in order to trade for a different kind of lifestyle. I would say that we're not to a point where it is so onerous, even as a junior designer coming into it, freshly graduating from Otis. People are willing to make it work because of the other benefits, both from a lifestyle. Southern California, Los Angeles is a wonderful place to be when it's not quaking or on fire or any of the other natural things that happen to us. But the creative kind of community value of being amongst your people and rewarded for it, I think, keeps them here and certainly continues to attract them here, at least at Mattel and what we're observing in the toy industry.
Do you want to speak to that? You're nodding, Jackson.
No, we were just talking about the kind of creative gravity of LA backstage, and I think that that's significant. You know, like headwinds notwithstanding, like there is a passion and an energy to creatives that it makes this a place that they want to be. They want to be in a charismatic atmosphere, and LA provides literally all the things that make that a great place to live and to be able to kind of collaborate. So I do think that there's I wouldn't say it's a positive spin exactly, but I think it kind of is. Like there will always be pressure on those things as LA becomes an even more desirable place and a more of a center of creative industry, which it seems all kind of indications seem that it could and should do.
Oh, hang on, build on that. You're saying the projections are that it will get more of a creative, even as we do deal with the aftermath of devastating fires and these other headwinds. You're saying LA's on a trajectory up for its creativity.
I'm definitely not an economist, so I wouldn't I wouldn't say that. I work at Disney. I'm very optimistic and hopeful generally. It's kind of my thing, but I do believe that I believe in Los Angeles, and I believe that I don't think that the kind of production's going away as a permanent state by any means. I think it's something that a lot of people are very, very eager to try to solve, and I believe in that. I think that at the kind of headwaters of creative, like that's the stuff that we need to make sure that takes place in Los Angeles, because those kind of headwater creative things like production are the things that feed so many of the rest of these industries. Places for people to live, toys for people to buy, shows for people to watch. I mean, I think it's all indications are we should take advantage of that, because we obviously have California is still the leader, whatever the numbers say, and Los Angeles is still the hub of that.
Dana?
I agree. I mean, I'm just going to layer on. I completely agree. And for me, as we talked about backstage, it's just the hub of diversity, and that's what's most important, and that's what I love dealing with the Otis program. Is that it's diversity and that we get different types of story, it's authentic, and I think that we have to continue to foster that here. So, we have to strive for it, and I do believe it's not all Disney's not the only perennial optimist. We're all optimists. So yes, it's still here. Yeah, we all fight for it.
I love that, Dana. The diversity thing is real.
Yeah.
And this is the one place, when I think about all of the other global sites that we have, it is the one place that is, it truly gives you access to the consumers that we serve as the workers that are creating what that is. And that is a huge benefit. And by the way, I will stand up, I will put the flag in the ground. I believe that the creative economy, at least as it relates to toys, will continue to grow and to thrive. And part of that is that I believe we hit a tipping point, thanks to COVID, thanks to a lot of other things. I mean, even the Toy Industry Association, the TIA, has endorsed Toy Fair, which is our annual trade event where we're hosting people like Amazon and people like Walmart and Target and everyone else. And the gravity, the tipping point has happened, and now they've taken over a building, and now all of the smaller independent toy companies are also coming to El Segundo every fall. So I think that we've hit that inflection point, at least in the toy industry, where there are so many benefits that it will propagate continued growth.
Well, I feel like there's that Joan Didion quote, I think it is about sort of America kind of tilting over towards California. Everything's kind of sliding in here. I think since January. Are you going to move to Austin, Texas to start your new creative economy? I don't think so. I mean, not if you have 25-year-old female employees, you're not. So I feel like we have a lot of growth, I think, just from that, so I'm very optimistic. I think I see a lot of the architecture graduates from sort of the elite East Coast schools coming out here too to look for jobs in creative design and seeing that this is the place to actually build things that are, unique and think future thinking about like how we live now, how we work now.
We've literally got 15 seconds to taking questions from you all in the audience. So I had hoped to spend a few minutes on AI, which I think was a sort of, obviously one of the other big issues that we're dealing with in the economy. In a few seconds, does any of you want to just offer up a thought on what we should in this room be thinking about AI?
How do you spell that?
There we go.
We know Al.
We know
5 minutes?
Dana.
I think AI is a tool, and I just think like it's a resource, and I think that we're still trying to figure out how to properly use it and how it's functioning within our different, mediums. But it's a tool, and I think it's been helpful. And I know some people are still trying to figure out. I mean, there's things that we still have to figure out where it goes too far in terms of like, the actors and making sure that they're getting properly, they're paid for, and et cetera. So there's still some things that have to be figured out. But for us, it's a tool, and it's been helpful, and so it's not a negative.
We did just see that big drop in employment in San Francisco there around new media. And I suppose I heard coders are losing their jobs. I did wonder, is that AI taking jobs from humans, or is it human jobs that have been cut for other reasons? So I guess I did wonder if there was an AI sort of question around that. But I'll leave that hanging for a moment. Let's take some questions from the. They're over here.
We are
Sorry. Stage right. Okay.
Thanks so much. The questions, you already brought up one of the big themes, and I think Patrick is going to come back to the stage in case we have questions for the economist as well. One of the big themes that came out in the questions, which we've been collecting, is around sustainability. With California and Los Angeles leading design, how are you addressing design for sustainability in your various areas of work?
Who goes first? Barbara?
Well, I think there's a lot of interest in, let's say, constructionally speaking, around alternatives. We are not yet, from a code point of view, set up so well for exploring CLT, like cross-laminated timber, but in general, I think Europe's already been leading the way where wood construction, the low carbon footprint and sustainability of wood has become a dominant force in European architecture. I think California generally, we're the fastest to adopt, the new trends, and also we are not that far from forests, as we all know. So I think that is going to be really interesting how we can start to build more and more out of wood. There's been a lot of experiments. I don't know if anyone's been to the Portland, Oregon airport, but it's quite remarkable wood project. But I think that's the big trend that I think is sort of a design and technology and sustainability issue.
Although there's also the counter wood argument, which is after the fires, we saw so many wood frame buildings be burned and become essentially the fuel for the next house.
But not because of the wood, I think, because of the penetrability and the timbers and all that.
I mean, I'll throw something out there from sustainability, because toys, toys are high consumption. Obviously, there's the tension of usability and play performance, which is paramount in everything we put out there. Also, child safety. All materials, even sustainable ones, can be counter to some of those ambitions, requirements, and commitments that we have in terms of what we make our toys out of. But it's not just materiality. I mean, we do think about like where do we build toys to last that are heirloom quality, and that goes everything from an American Girl doll at $120 down to a $1.25 die-cast Hot Wheels car. These are sustainable by virtue of the fact that they're handed down from generation to generation. At the same time, we did launch this last year a wood line for Fisher-Price within our Fisher-Price division, really looking at how can we kind of shift materiality within that toddler space. And then we continue to experiment with new resins and materials that do get us closer to our performance requirements. You think about hair fibers for dolls. You don't want Barbie's hair looking like a rat's nest. And so ensuring that we're balancing kind of a path and a commitment to sustainability over time with kind of the practical requirements that the toy category implies.
Right, and the toy category also implies keeping people buying lots more toys and throwing out the old toys. I mean, is there a sort of fundamental kind of contradiction in terms of sustainability when it comes to some of these industries which really are about getting people to buy more product, not less?
Yeah, I mean, that's business. I think that a couple of things I would say. One is that there are new children born every day, and so ensuring that we're continuing to meet the demands there, as well as just ensuring that what we do put out there does have the greatest opportunity to create the least amount of impact. And we do have toy take-back programs as well that we're continuing to scale every year that allow for people to have a pathway. I think part of it is what the company puts out can be perfectly sustainable in every way. Deconstructible, put it in the right place, it goes back into the cycle. Getting consumers to follow through on the commitment that maybe we start is also a learned behavior. So we're making progress, but we have not reached perfection by any stretch. I'll take it.
Does either of you two want to chime in on sustainability before we go to our next question?
I think that people are always going to want to be entertained in some form or another. So I think sustainability is, there's always, you want to discover and experience things. So I feel like in some avenue, you're always going to want to do this or watch something or, engage. And so I'm not really worried about sustainability. I'm worried about authentic storytelling and diversity. Sorry, I keep trumpeting that. So yes, that's what I'm worried about.
Plus one.
Okay, next question.
Future of work came up in a number of questions, both what advice would you give to K-12 educators to help prepare our future creative workforce to succeed in this charismatic culture? And where do you see your workforce? What will it look like? What will be different in 10 years?
Who wants to start?
I mean, I guess this feels like a good enough start to another inroad to the AI thing. I think, we had calculators and we weren't allowed to use them during tests, and then we were. And, then we had computers and we weren't allowed to use them, and then we were. And AR, if you ask a kid, I've got teenagers, they use AI for all kinds of things, to kind of form the basis of the argument they want to make, to have a more specified custom search to find the information they need to find. I feel like they are already using them as tools. I feel like at a certain level, it feels like a spec there, but with young kids, it actually does feel like a tool. And I think that being specific about what any kind of developing technologies can be used for, and how they can kind of benefit someone as a creator, as a student, what do you want to make? What do you want to see? What do you want to see in the world? Like, how can you use these things to help you realize that? I know that comes into play in everything that we're talking about. Like, it can just help you to form your idea a little bit quicker, potentially, and get it out into the world in a way that you can share it with other people and then kind of iterate on it.
But it sounds like you're saying that part and parcel of that is that the K through 12 teacher needs also to be educated in these technologies and how to use them, because for many of us, I do a little bit of teaching, and I feel completely hopeless, about how to sort of navigate the AI thing, and I'm sure there's many a teacher that feels like the world's moving too fast, the technology, and how do they keep up? So does teacher training need to actually perhaps be, encompass. I'm sure it's evolving as I speak, but is that part of the puzzle? Is making sure the educators know how to use these tools and when to not use them. I mean, there's actually a conversation going on right now about keeping cell phones, for example, out of schools. That sometimes one goes backwards with the technology when you realize it sort of isn't working in school.
I would love to throw a point of view out here, because we've gone through technology changes in the creative industry a lot. I mean, Mattel alone, 23 years ago, we still do, we have sculptors, but they were using clay and wax. We have 25 sculptors that are focused on designing the next Barbie head. And today they are 100% sculpting in digital voxels, pixels, using force feedback, magic arm that prints out into a 3D print lab. The quality of the creativity and the execution is better today than it was then, in terms of the speed, the fidelity, the clarity, the accuracy, the whole thing. What I would say is, if I were a K-12, K through 12 educator today, I think that, look, design is problem solving, creative problem solving. That doesn't go away. That still requires an operator to think about, to address, to identify opportunities to solve problems or create good solutions for people. How you do that is about embracing whatever the best tools are for the job at the time. And I will say AI is profound, significant. It is one of the most promising tools of the time. So I think that it has to be embraced, but I think there also has to be a certain amount of flexibility in terms of how we are educating and how we as practitioners are learning, growing, and supporting our people.
Very interesting. I mean, we could really go into education and how we actually educate our young people these days and whether they are being prepared for the economy. That is a broader question. But anyway, next.
What incentives would you tell the governor to implement to help grow the creative economy? I see Patrick nodding, but any of the panelists?
I guess I'll take a little bit more of the heat, maybe. At Westwood, we don't really shy away from planting our flag on certain issues. And when it comes to film incentives, people see industry flagging a little bit, not necessarily struggling, but flagging. The really intuitive response is to offer some kind of film incentive, get some help there. We would encourage, so it starts out in the negative. We would encourage policymakers like the governor to start out by looking at where the industry is going, the technologies it's embracing, but where the industry is going here in Los Angeles and in California generally. And it's going to be more managerial. It's going to be less centered on traditional film and television shooting and production, more centered on prompt engineering for AI, more centered on command and control. And so, if the film incentive structure you have is really just incentivizing shooting days, then you're kind of putting the attention on this slightly older part of the industry. You should have a holistic version of this. And then it should also, the currency that we have in this report is jobs. It's not production, it's jobs. So, you want the incentive strategy to really focus on whatever it is you're doing, turn it into quality jobs. And I think we're definitely, the policymaking community in this state is more than up to the challenge to think in a kind of sophisticated way about that topic.
Anybody else want to? You mentioned tax incentives for movie production. Any other incentives we want to put out there?
Well, I would say that the state SB 9 rules, which are kind of an ADU rule that overrides all local things, it's been huge because it allows people to build ADUs, which otherwise would be more or less shut down by NIMBYism or local politics. So I think state initiatives around density is probably the only way to actually get into the homelessness crisis. To increase housing in a more structured way. And it's tricky politically, but it's very important. It's been very successful so far.
Agree.
Very specific, this might be for Patrick too. Is there any way to disaggregate nonprofit arts data on the dashboard? And are there plans to make the data available?
This is, I'm so happy about this question. That's got to be a plant.
Was it? It really was. It was not a plant, I promise.
Okay, so traditionally, one of the shortcomings of the report has been that it tracks the private sector. Tools for tracking, nonprofit, profit-seeking private sector. Tools for tracking nonprofit are less precise, but we've figured it out. We figured out a large part of this at Westwood in conjunction with Otis, and we're going to be releasing that pretty soon. So we're going to start not. I mean, this is great. What a great day for me. Yeah, so it's not going to be with the same granularity, regularity as what you see on the dashboard, but it will be hooked up to the dashboard. And so if you are an arts organization and you're making a pitch to a grant writer or something, we're going to give you more tools to do that. So we're very excited about it.
To Dana's point about authentic storytelling, that was not a plant, I promise. All right, this is a sort of a closer, and some of you have referred to this already, but despite all of the challenges, rapid changes, some of the dips that we've seen, what excites you most about the future of LA's creative economy?
Okay, who wants to start? Because you're all going to answer this.
Well, I'll jump in. I guess I do feel that our population has been growing, and it does seem like I'm the mother of two, like a 5-year-old and a 26-year-old, and a lot of their peers are moving here instead of moving to New York. That used to be my generation. That's kind of one of the places you go, maybe not to be an architect, but otherwise. And I think that the opportunities for those people are quite vast, because the tech world does have a bunch of other weird jobs in it that are humanities and arts and creative. I'm sure a lot of you guys are here, but it's kind of fascinating. I've worked for some bigger tech companies too, and it's so I think the concentration of unknown future jobs that are creative is sort of known to be around here, whether it's LA or San Francisco. And I think certainly in architecture, we do see the city is going to change hugely, just over and over again. It's been recycling itself. We've kind of increasing density. People are coming back to the city. People love their neighborhoods. The neighborhoods are developing all over the place. I think we have to struggle with, say, the issues around gentrification and sort of moving. If people are going to move away from the mountains with the forests that burn, then where are they going to go? There's all kinds of things that are going to lead to change. LA Olympics coming up. We have just a lot of great, exciting things that are sort of unknown. I think that makes it exciting in a creative way. How do we participate in imagining and reimagining and future projecting what it might be like to live here? What is our daily life like? What is the authentic experience that you might have, when you go get a cup of coffee or go to work? So I think it's, I'm excited.
I would love to just build on that, because similar to how I think about it, which is the only constant is change. And more often than not, it's inconvenient change. And I do feel as if the creative economy and kind of the momentum that we have as a creative economy and the diversity that's represented within it, we're best equipped as problem solvers to optimize the potential of what those changes can represent in terms of benefiting humanity and society and enjoyment of life. Hopefully, the cost of living could maybe come down a little bit as well and make it more affordable and accessible to an even broader range of community. But I am excited about the problem-solving potential of dealing with the realities of the world.
I'll just say that, coming back to diversity again, I just loved, and this is probably way off topic, but I love just seeing the human spirit, that how everybody was pitching together after the fires and everybody was helping one another, and the love in the community. And so I'm excited to see that how we take that and apply that to this creative economy and get back to what we know and what we all fight for and love, and which is why we're all here. We love this creative environment. We love what we do. We love this entertainment. And so I believe that if we have that same spirit when we wanted to see everybody rebuild and we're excited about everybody getting back on their feet again, I think we have that same enthusiasm and that same support. I think that we are going to take over the world. And I think California is going to be better than ever.
You get the last word.
I'm excited about art. I think
Art.
that in this
Did
world,
you say art?
Yeah, I think that in the world we live in right now, it feels chaotic. Sometimes it feels oppressive. It feels like a lot of things all at once for folks. And I do think that's where great, interesting, weird, original, creative ideas we've never seen before come from. And I think that that's happening right now. And I think the next few years are going to be really exciting for that. And it just feeds so many other parts of our industry: inspiration, creativity. And I'm excited about technology because I think technology really hits at the only commodity we have is time, and anything that can reduce, especially in creative fields, can reduce tasks that free up more of our brain space for kind of free associative, creative thinking and collaboration are very, very exciting to me, and I think they're exciting to most people in the creative field, or should be reduced a little bit to be able to be understood that way.
And I guess for those of us, lucky enough to have the work, the home, to have those things taken care of, if our time is freed up in that way that you've said, we can play a bit more.
Yes.
So I think with that, here.
Thank you. Let's hear it for our panel. Okay, before I wrap it up, I'm just going to say a few things. Chris and I were actually talking backstage about his undergraduate industrial design education at Notre Dame, and I was just sort of fantasizing about what the 19-year-olds at Otis College are going to look like in a few years when they're on this panel. So, and hopefully the opportunity of an undergraduate education in art and design and what that can do for people. So thank you to the panel. I also want to thank the Otis team. This event, is an impressive event, but it's a heavy lift for a lot of people. And Lawrence Aldava and our marketing and communications team. Allison Graf Weissner and her development team, institutional advancement, and was the moderator. Excellent job moderating the questions. Thank you. And Nicole Nicholas, who oversees special projects for us. So thank you to those are just three of the many Otis people who helped make this possible. I want to invite you to remain engaged with Otis by downloading, obviously, the recent Creative Economy report, exploring our dashboard, or attending future events. Later this spring, we'll host a Creative Economy webinar with our colleagues at Westwood Economics, where you'll learn more about the findings and further explore the Creative Economy dashboard. As Patrick teed up this fall, we'll be looking forward to releasing new research on the breadth and impact of California's nonprofit art sector, which we look forward to sharing with you. As you have observed, you have been a fantastically charismatic audience. And thank you for attending, and thank you for supporting this event, and enjoy your day. Thank you.